56 elite commandos storm a prison deep in North Vietnam, guns ready, hearts pounding. Every cell inside Son Tay prison camp is empty. The prisoners had vanished months before. The raid was tactically perfect, and it still became one of the strangest failures of the war. By 1970, hundreds of American airmen sat in North Vietnamese prison camps, some for over 5 years. Son Tay camp sat just 23 miles west of Hanoi, uncomfortably close to the enemy capital. Reconnaissance photographs from spy satellites and drones revealed the camp's exact layout in remarkable detail. Analysts spotted a symbol scratched into the dirt, a signal prisoners used to mark active camps. Planners built a full-scale replica of the camp at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. Commandos rehearsed the raid more than 170 times before ever boarding a helicopter. Every second of the operation was timed and choreographed down to the smallest movement. Colonel Arthur Simons led the ground force, a veteran already famous for daring covert missions. On November 21, 1970, 6 helicopters lifted off from Thailand under cover of darkness. They flew low and fast over hostile territory, threading between mountains to avoid radar detection. One helicopter deliberately crash-landed inside the compound walls, exactly as planners had rehearsed. Commandos poured out and secured the compound in under 4 minutes, killing guards along the way. Simons burst into the first cell block, ready to greet men who had waited years for rescue. The room was bare, no cots, no prisoners, nothing but dust and silence. Team after team searched every cell block, and every single one turned up the same result. Unknown to planners, the prisoners had been moved weeks earlier due to nearby flooding. They had been relocated to another camp just 15 miles away, still within reach. American intelligence had actually detected signs of the move, but the warning got lost in bureaucracy. The raid force held their position for exactly 27 minutes before the mission commander gave the order to withdraw. They killed an estimated dozens of North Vietnamese and Chinese personnel stationed near the camp. Every American commando made it back onto the helicopters, and the entire team returned home alive. Back in Thailand, the men learned the mission had reached its target but found no prisoners. News of the raid reached Washington within hours, and reactions split sharply between relief and fury. President Richard Nixon publicly praised the operation's execution while privately demanding answers about the intelligence failure. Critics in Congress asked a hard question: how could such advanced surveillance miss an empty camp? The Pentagon launched an internal review to determine exactly where the warning signs had been missed. Investigators traced the problem to a fragmented intelligence system where key reports never reached the planners. One agency had noted the camp's likely evacuation, but the update never reached the raid's commanders. Separate agencies each held pieces of the puzzle, but no single office connected them in time. This was not a failure of soldiers, but a failure of coordination between competing intelligence bureaucracies. Some analysts had flagged reduced activity at Son Tay weeks before the raid ever launched. But planners were reluctant to abort a mission built on months of grueling, precise rehearsal. Momentum, secrecy, and sunk cost all pushed the operation forward despite the fading evidence. Despite the empty camp, the raid proved something the Pentagon badly needed to demonstrate. American commandos could strike deep inside North Vietnam and return home without a single loss. That message reached North Vietnamese leadership loud and clear, even without a single prisoner rescued. Within days, North Vietnam consolidated scattered POW camps into fewer, more heavily guarded central locations. Many prisoners were moved into the notorious Hoa Lo prison, nicknamed the Hanoi Hilton by inmates. Ironically, this consolidation improved conditions, since isolated prisoners could no longer be as easily separated. Former prisoners later testified that group housing let them organize, communicate, and maintain morale together. Some historians argue the raid indirectly improved treatment for hundreds of Americans still held captive. The raid also forced North Vietnam to divert troops toward guarding camps deep behind their lines. That diversion of manpower and resources was a quiet strategic cost the enemy had not expected. Back home, the raid became a flashpoint in the growing debate over the war's direction. For military planners, Son Tay became a lasting case study in the limits of intelligence. The Pentagon quietly asked whether the same intelligence gaps existed across other covert operations underway that year. They found that satellite imagery, drone photos, and human intelligence rarely reached one desk at the same time. Each agency guarded its own sources, worried that sharing too widely might expose a valuable method. That same institutional caution had already cost precious weeks before the raid ever left the ground. The review recommended a new joint intelligence center to merge overhead imagery with on-the-ground reporting. That recommendation later shaped how American forces coordinated intelligence for rescue missions in later conflicts. Meanwhile, the raiders themselves faced an uneasy welcome home, caught between honor and public confusion. Some newspapers called it a heroic failure, a phrase that puzzled many Americans following the war. Military leaders insisted the mission's true value lay beyond whether prisoners were physically rescued that night. They argued that proving reach and precision mattered as much as any single rescue outcome. Colonel Simons and his men received medals, though many later admitted the empty cells haunted them. For the prisoners still held captive, word of the raid eventually reached them through secret camp communication. Many described a surge of hope, proof that their country had not forgotten them after years of captivity. That psychological boost, historians note, may have mattered more than any single physical rescue attempt. Back in the United States, families of missing airmen watched the news with fragile, cautious optimism. The National League of Families, formed just months earlier, used the raid to demand more transparency. Their pressure pushed Washington to publicly acknowledge how little was truly known about individual prisoners' conditions. In North Vietnam, propaganda broadcasts mocked the raid as a desperate, wasted American gesture. Privately, North Vietnamese officials were reportedly alarmed at how close American forces had come to Hanoi. That alarm explains why camps were reorganized so quickly in the days right after the raid. For the raiders, the true measure of success would only become clear years after the war ended. When prisoners finally came home in 1973, many credited Son Tay with changing their daily treatment. They described better food, group cells, and reduced isolation in the months following the failed rescue. None of that improvement had been the raid's original goal, yet it became its lasting legacy. Historians studying Son Tay also examined its ripple effects on American special operations doctrine going forward. Planners began pushing for real-time confirmation of a target status immediately before any raid launched. That single lesson would echo decades later in far more famous raids against high-value targets. Son Tay is still taught today at military academies as a case study in operational risk assessment. Instructors use it to show that flawless execution cannot compensate for outdated or fragmented intelligence. The raid also influenced how the United States handled prisoner of war intelligence during later conflicts overseas. Yet at the time, none of that long-term value eased the sting felt inside the raid team. Some commandos privately doubted whether risking 56 lives for an empty building had truly been worth it. Colonel Simons himself reportedly told his men their mission had still achieved a measure of success. He pointed out that no American blood had been spilled despite landing deep inside enemy territory. That fact alone distinguished Son Tay from many other deep penetration raids attempted during the Vietnam War. Military historians later called it one of the most technically flawless special operations of the entire war. That reputation helped the raid become a training template long after Vietnam faded from headlines. Declassified documents released decades later filled in gaps the public had never fully understood before. Those files confirmed the intelligence community had spotted warning signs but failed to escalate them fast enough. The files also revealed just how close the operation came to being cancelled at the last minute. A final review board debated abandoning the raid just 72 hours before helicopters were set to launch. In the end, momentum and the promise of rescuing Americans won out over lingering uncertainty. Looking back, many officials admitted the decision reflected hope as much as hard evidence. That admission became a cautionary lesson repeated in military planning rooms for generations afterward. Today, veterans of the raid are honored specifically for the mission's discipline, not its outcome. A monument near Eglin Air Force Base still commemorates the training and the men who trained there. Visitors there learn a mission can fail its objective and still change the course of a war. That paradox is exactly why Son Tay still fascinates historians studying the strange arithmetic of wartime success. Son Tay endures as proof that courage and precision alone cannot fix a broken flow of information. It remains a rare case where a mission failed its objective yet still changed the war's course. If this hidden history surprised you, subscribe to Colonel Mittens for more true stories behind the world's forgotten battles. Every raid, every failure, every lesson learned in blood built the modern art of special operations.